more at the NBFCs and at the microfinance NBFCs. We've got two people who know this space best. Joining us now is Mr. P.N. Vasudevan, the Managing Director of Equitas Small Finance Bank, and Raman Aggarwal, the Chairman of the Finance Industry Development Council. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us. Mr. Vasudevan, you go first. You know several levels of the NBFCs well, the SMEs, the MSMEs, the classical NBFCs, as well as the MFI. What are your problems?
We became a bank in September, as you are aware. And being a bank, we are allowed to collect the old denominations as part of our deposit or loan accounts. And because of that, actually in the last 1 week, we have not particularly seen any impact as far as our collections are concerned. Collections are remaining as normal as before. In terms of fresh loans, 70% of our loans we give out in the form of transaction through the bank. Only 30% goes out in the form of cash. That 30% disbursement has come to a stop in the last 1 week. We have been telling our customers to provide us bank details so that we can transfer the money to their bank account. That is something that we have yet to see the conversion. Maybe customers will convert at some point in time. But right now, about 70% of our disbursement is happening as normal, but about 30%, which is used to be the cash, that's come to a stop for the last 1 week. Now we'll have to see how much customers are willing to give bank accounts and take their disbursement in the form of a transfer to their bank accounts.
Oh, you mean they are unbanked
side.
guys?
On the liability side, on the deposit side, about...
Mr. Vasudevan, you're saying that those 30% don't have an account.
The PMJDY accounts have been opened for...
Okay. Sorry.
No, they do have an account because they all have this PMJDY account which was opened in the last 1 year. But so far they have not provided us the details, so they always used to take disbursement in cash. Now we are telling them that we can't give you cash, so why don't you give your bank details?
Okay.
So that's something that they will have to, we'll have to see how many of them are willing to share their bank details.
Okay.
And on the liability side, that's raising deposits. About 30 of our liability branches are up and running now. And in those 30 branches, we are definitely seeing the number of new accounts that we are able to open for deposit is slightly more than what we had initially estimated.
Okay.
So, and as our balance 400 branches go on stream in the next 3-4 months, we have to see what is the benefit that we see on the deposit side.
Okay, so you're saying that 30% of your cash disbursements have come to a halt, so that's a pretty big hit. But let's get Mr. Raman Aggarwal into this conversation as well. Raman, good morning. I wanted your thoughts on how the demonetization scheme would impact the entire loan against property segment, because that's one market that was virtually driven by cash. And now with the government possibly cracking down on Binami property as well, it looks like delinquencies could rise further in this segment. Your thoughts?
See, let me tell you at the outset that the whole business model of NBFCs, targeting what we call the unbanked segment and the lower strata of the society, where you have a lot of MSMEs, farmers, road transport operators, who literally deal in cash. To that extent, yes, not only the loan disbursements, the collections are suffering. And as far as your point about the loan against property is concerned, see, as far as the collections, it's common across the board. Yes, in terms of values, the property values have certainly seen a large decline because of this demonetization. But the cash flows are basically the money which is borrowed is always used in small businesses, small traders. So they have a property, they pledge it and raise loans quickly to meet any of their needs. So I take this opportunity to in fact point out the point which Mr. Vasudevan made. See, he very clearly mentioned today, having been converted into a small finance bank, they are allowed to accept the old denomination notes and as towards collections. But NBFCs have been denied this benefit. So the immediate step which needs to be taken, and we have requested RBI, is to allow NBFCs also to accept the old denomination till 30th December, as has been done for banks. That is the first step which needs to be done.
For loan repayment, you mean?
Yes, exclusively for loan repayments, nothing else. Okay. We are asking exclusively for loan repayments.
Okay. Mr. Vasudevan, would you expect that you will want some kind of munificence, some kind of forbearance from the Reserve Bank on NPA deadline? I mean, this 90-day norm perhaps has to be set aside for this quarter, something on those lines?
See, right now, as I said, as banks, we have not seen any stress on our collections. So it's early times for us, as from a banking perspective. It's very early times to ask for any kind of, forbearance from RBI on the NPA recognition norms. I think it's early times. We'll have to let it play out for some time before we see what's the impact over the next maybe 3 to 4 weeks' time.
No, that's a very positive if you're saying that. What is the pace at which you are able to open new accounts? Are you expecting that there is going to be a rush of new accounts at your end?
Yeah, I think from this current 30-odd branches which are live, we are definitely seeing that the velocity of account opening is much more than what we had kind of initially estimated. And we are also doing a lot of campaigns in the markets. For example, we went to a town called Chengalpet, which is a suburb of Chennai, last week. We did a complete survey of the town, about 70,000 odd population, about 225 commercial establishments, of which only 10% have a POS machine, 90% don't have a POS machine. And when we inquired with those 90% of the shops, they were very eager to get a POS machine now. Probably a week back, their attitude would have been very different. So I think there are a lot of changes, attitudinal changes we are seeing in the market, and those are things which we'll have to see how do we address them going forward.
Mr. Raman, wanted your thoughts on what the impact has been so far in the auto financing segment, because we hear from commercial vehicle manufacturers, from truckers, that things have gotten quite bad over there.
Yeah, it has impacted heavily. See, let us appreciate the fact, when you talk of transport operators, you have a very large segment of what we call as small road transport operators, the SRTOs. In that segment, you even have a large segment where you have owner-driven vehicles. So it's like a transporter who's on the road for 7 days, 8 days, may return home after 8 days, have some amount of collections, the cash to repay, but he's stuck today. So as I said, the immediate need, and that's a very valid point which you raised, that's precisely because of the fact that we have instances where the borrowers are coming to our offices with cash, want to repay, but we cannot accept that money. So as I said, that's an important step which needs to be done, and immediately allow us also to accept old denomination notes. So you're right, it is impacting the not only the auto finance segment, the entire segment of financing MSMEs, even farmers for tractor loans. So everywhere the collections are suffering.
Okay. Would you say that if the Reserve Bank did not allow y'all to collect some of the loan accounts in old notes, at least to the extent of one monthly installment, you will see a lot of companies going bankrupt?
Not really bankrupt, but please appreciate the fact, we are talking of, as I said, the kind of segment, they have little cash to play with. Whatever they earn, they repay, and rest is used for their daily needs. If they're not able to repay, it gets added on to the next month. So the burden for the next month increases. So what we are seeing that over a time, this may have a cascading effect, and the asset quality, the stress on the assets quality of NBFCs may suffer. And there, of course, I agree with the viewpoint that, on the other hand, RBI also needs to look at and relax some kind of provisioning norms in terms of the NPAs, because as you rightly pointed out, that this quarter from the last quarter is going to see a stress on the system. So that view RBI has to take in terms of relaxing the provisioning norms.
Okay, well, gentlemen, we'll have to end this conversation on that note, but thank you so much for joining us and giving us some very insightful details into what's happening with the demonetization on the NBFC space. When we come back from the other side of the break, we're going to touch base with a rating agency. Mary Deeren of Moody's Investor Services will join in and tell us whether they are also forecasting a drop in India's GDP because of the demonetization.